Welcome to the Wellness Revolution podcast, the radio show all about wellness in your mind, body, spirit, personal growth, sex, and relationships. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have achieved physical, mental, and spiritual health in their lives. If you'd like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit drveronica.com for instant access. And here's your host, Dr. Veronica.
Welcome again to Dr. Veronica's Wellness Revolution. I appreciate you come back. And today we're going to talk about phobias. There's something that we're all really scared of, but some things that we're scared of, it's absolutely terrifying and dysfunctional, and we can't do that. So let me tell you about my particular fear. Doesn't come up a whole lot. Bugs, really big bugs. One time we were in Hawaii and there were bugs on the ceiling, and all of a sudden I seized up. I was like, oh my God, my sons were laughing at me because I was making a fool of myself and I couldn't do anything. We had to change rooms because mom was crazy that couldn't do anything. And it just came over me like that. Don't even know why. I don't want to see it again. Don't care why. I do my best to avoid bugs. So, and I don't even know what kind it is. It's kind of like those roachy crawly things that bother me. But I like nature. And bugs around where I live, they don't bother me. But those Hawaii bugs, oh my God. So there are lots of dysfunctional phobias. And when I say dysfunctional, I know you can't help that you have it, but you want to figure out, how do I get over it? Some people get so afraid of being outside, they can't even leave their house. And I've met people like that. I've met people who develop phobias to driving their car, and they have anxiety attacks. Think about how disabling that can be. So today, in Phobia Relief Day is coming up, and I wanted to talk to a guest who is going to help people with their phobias. So I have with me Kalliope Barlis, and Kalliope is a phobia expert, and she actually has a book about phobias. It's been on Amazon, it's a bestseller, and we're going to talk about phobia relief and what we can do about it. So Kalliope, welcome to the Wellness Revolution.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Veronica. It's so great to be with you.
So first, tell me how you started talking about phobias. What is it personal to you?
Well, years ago, I had my own fear of public speaking, and I learned these wonderful skills that I knew would be of benefit to people, of great value. And so because I believe so much in these skills, I decided to get over it, deal with my own fear, and give me the opportunity to share what it is that I know so that others could live better lives as well.
So fear of public speaking is one of those very common phobias. I know that you do it now. For me, when I get up and speak in front of people, I get a little bit scared, but I just say, I do that. People are in their underwear stuff, and I can rationalize and say, get over it. I'm going to be giving people good information. I know a lot more than the people in the audience know, and so therefore not a big deal. But some people, they can never get there. So talk about that a little bit. Where do these fears come from in the first place? How do they get so bad?
Well, too often in the case of public speaking, people who fear it so much, and from what I understand, people fear that more than they do death. They've actually quit jobs and gone on to move on to other careers because they couldn't stand or even cope with the fact that they'd be talking in front of their colleagues. And so the bestest thing that someone can actually start doing is imagine that the audience is intrigued by what you say. Because chances are you know what you're talking about when you're going out there to do a public talk about it. So if instead of seeing people bored and discouraged and looking not so nice, if instead you see them in your mind's eye, that they're intrigued by what you say, that their mouths are open because you're so interesting, and that nervousness that you talked about, well, you can take that nervousness, but then allow it to feed you, to talk to the people that you're talking with greater passion, because whatever energy it is, whatever emotion it is, you can transfer it into positive energy into your audience. And the more positivity you exude, the more intrigued they'll be.
So now that sounds really easy when you talk about it, but people are saying it's not that easy. So give us a few tips on the type of stuff that you can teach people to get over phobias.
So too often when people have a great big phobia, it's usually the idea of it that scares them more than actually being around what it is that they fear. So I know in your case, you said you saw the bugs and you got scared and you had to move your room. And right, just even thinking about it, you get an emotional response, right?
I sure do. I'm like, this was a while ago now. I feel like it was more than 10 years ago now, and I still vividly remember it. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. All I could see is those bugs crawling all over me when the lights went out and I went to sleep, although there were just a few on the ceiling.
Sure. And it's that emotional response that you had while it was happening that makes you remember it the way that you do now, right? Because no memory really locks in unless there's an emotional response to it. And that emotional response can either be a good feeling or a not so good feeling. So what I do when I work with someone to shrink their fears is actually take that big IMAX picture of them, however it is that they're thinking about it, and shrink it down to the size of a dime. And once you shrink it, it changes the impact through the whole body. Because I know you're a doctor, and you know that thinking doesn't take place in your toes. It takes place in your brain. And whatever charge the thinking has, it sends that charge throughout the body. And so once I get people to change the structure of their thought, it changes how they feel.
And how fast can people get this type of result to be able to change how they feel in that structure?
Well, I've done it in less than 18 minutes. I'm trying to break my own record, hopefully on Phobia Relief Day, this coming Monday. And it can take less than a half hour for most people if they do the skills on their own. And if they see me, probably even less.
Okay, so you talk about NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Some people may know what it is, some people don't, and you use it when you're helping people with their phobias. So tell us a little bit about NLP.
NLP is the study and use of successful behavior. It's like at the core of so many coaching systems, because we look at how you think, which influences how you feel, which then influences how you do things. We don't care really about who, what, where, and when it all happened. What we care about is how you're thinking about it. And once we change the thought, we can change the feeling. But just to break it up, neuro is your neurology, linguistic has to do with language, and programming really has to do with the behavior that all of us are taught throughout our lifetimes, whether it be in our families, our social structures, our education. And it's a matter of changing the belief systems that aren't so useful into ones that are more useful, so that you begin to build an even better life for yourself.
So let me talk about a common phobia. And this is a lot of times people may not think about this as a phobia. And I don't know why. I was listening to the radio this morning, and somebody was talking about being in a relationship and starting a new relationship and just being really scared to move forward. That's a common emotion that people have. They don't want to get into a new relationship. Or I remember when I was remarrying and on the way up to my second wedding, me and my husband were both, we just started getting crazy acting because of the experience that we had that were painful in our first marriages. So let's talk about that type of phobia: fear of romantic relationships, fear of marriage, which is a word and an institution, but not the person.
And it's a valid fear, because I don't teach people not to fear at all. Because the truth is, you need to have caution. At times you need to be skeptical about things so that you can test your surroundings, test the people. I mean, you wouldn't want to marry someone who wasn't the right person. So it's important to have some sort of filtering system for yourself so that the person will never match exactly what you're thinking, right? Because too often, and I find this especially with women, we think of like the Prince Charming. We want him to be everything. We want him to be our rock, our hero, our supporter in life. And really, he's only human, right? But in the same breath, it's also great to find someone who responds in a way to challenges in life that will bring you together. And so that when you act together in such a way, when you build character together, because I mean, let's face it, a relationship is made of two people and everybody has problems throughout life. That's life. And the very definition of a problem is that it has a solution. And so when people meet people, I mean, and especially these days, you can meet anyone online, and too often their identity is not really who they are. They just want you, they tell you what you want to hear. And so it's important to figure out how it is that you can find the truth behind someone, who they really are. And that's really by asking them the right questions, noticing how they respond to life, and see if that's really what you want. And you know what? If they're not the right person, then they've done you a favor. You can move on to someone else, right?
This is true. But you know, what happens a lot of time, people are suspicious of everything and everybody. And for me, the answer to that is, well, because you're harboring that suspicious energy, you're going to get exactly what you expect to get. So a lot of people get the bad experience after the bad experience in relationships and say, I always meet bad guys, I always have problems, because they're carrying around that thought process and that energy. So isn't that part of the NLP process and changing your languaging and your thinking so that you attract different people and experiences in your life?
That's right. And in fact, too often I think, and I introduce the concept of thinking of the past is behind you and the future ahead of you. So that any relationship may have happened in the past, you put that person behind you so that you can open up your future ahead of you and start seeing the type of person, the character that you want in your life. Because the future is always ahead of you. It's the reason we walk forward. We take each step in front of the other. It's rare that we actually walk backwards to get to places. And when we put things behind us, we can start putting the people that weren't so good behind us and start building in better pictures of who it is that we actually want in our lives, in our future, so that we can start walking into those people's lives and make our lives even better.
So let's talk about some people's belief systems, because we're in a country right now that people got really crazy, emotional and scared based on what happened in our presidential election. And so half of the country in people's mind was painted as bad and evil. They put horns and a pitchfork on a particular person. So do you call those, is that like a phobia? Or, I mean, people were just crazy and they're still acting crazy. Whereas if you really look around, a lot of our life is pretty much the same as it was before. For me, life is the same as it was before. Do I have a watchful eye? Yes. But there are people who are, it's their whole everything. They're so fearful about the social climate, the cultural climate now. So isn't that a limiting belief? And how do you get rid of that, given that there's a real situation? There's a real situation in front of you. Like my bugs, I can avoid the bugs. What's going on in the culture and society, I can't avoid it, you can't avoid it, everybody else can. So what do you do about those type of situations?
Well, the truth is that the fact is that our country politically was built on the fact that no one president would be able to take us under, because we only have 2 terms, right? So we all need to realize, whether you love them or not, that it's going to end at some point, right? And so the fear, whatever fear it is that people have put into their minds about what may happen, which hasn't happened, or that whatever it is that they think inside their minds is so far a thought. Okay, and really, it's a matter of recognizing that our country was built so that there is change, and it happens every 4 years, and sometimes every 8 years. But either way, there will be a change, and not one person can make that much of a difference to send us into the realms of places we don't want to be, because you always have control over your life. And you know, Dr. Veronica, I've met so many wealthy people, I've met so many poor people that I've helped. And out of all of them, it never mattered the amount of money they had, nor the amount of education. But what mattered the most was common sense. And common sense, I believe, is the greatest asset, no matter where you come from and who you are.
So what if your common sense, for common sense for me is, I'm scared of those bugs. Common sense for my kids was, it's really funny watching mom scared of those little things. So common sense is not necessarily common among different people. And my mother used to say common sense is just not so common. So,
hey, wise woman.
So let's talk about how to access in yourself tools to resolve phobias. How can we begin to do that? We're sitting here listening to you. We know you have a book. Wait, let's talk about what your book is called. I'm looking up here. Oh, you're interesting too, because you actually have a book about golf, but phobia relief from fear to freedom. And we're going to put the link in our show notes, as we always do. Phobia Release from Fear to Freedom, #1 international best-selling book. Can they also go to buildingyourbest.com?
Yes, yep, they can pick it up at buildingyourbest.com and phobiareliefday.org. And for your listeners, I'd love to give them a great discount if they enter the code PRD for me on Eventbrite, or just go to my website. We'll give them free access to the audiobook, Phobia Relief.
Wow. Wait, PRD number 4?
Number 4.
PRD 4, number 4, ME.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. PRD for me for the code, and they can get the audiobook. Oh, great. I love audiobooks because I could be in the shower and right before I go off to sleep or whatever, and I don't have to be turning pages. So thank you so much for that gift. What else can you tell us? I know you have programs that help people resolve their phobia. So how can people access some of those programs?
All right, so if they go to buildingyourbest.com, they can sign up for one of the seminars where you actually learn the skills of the phobia relief skills. But in addition to, we take people through interactional exercises where you learn how it is that you think, and then how it is that you think about something not so good and something great, so that you can start becoming more aware of how you think, so that you have more control over yourself.
So are there certain thinking patterns that are more prevalent in people that have phobias?
There certainly are. In fact, the like common denominator is, so I'll bet that when you saw those bugs, they were these massive like IMAX things coming at you and coming in closer, right? And I'm sure that bugs in Hawaii are a little bigger than the ones that they are here. And because they're so big, once we shrink them and blink them black and white like you would a switch, up and down, off and on, you can actually do the same with your thought process. And then I guide them through reversing the memory, so that when they go to the most dramatic time that they had the memory, when they reverse it and see all the movements go backwards, all the sounds rewind, all the feelings rewind, they lose their charge. It's like something magical happens inside their brain, so that once I've done that, I build in some laughter about it so that whenever I take away something, I'm always putting something back in its place so that the next time they see that bug, they can start laughing about it. That is provided if it's safe for them to laugh about it. Because the truth is, if someone was around a poisonous snake or spider, I'd want them to get out of the way to keep themselves safe, right? So people learn how to have a better response so that they can live their lives genuinely and in the best way possible. And that's really what it's all about.
Okay, so what is the one thing you'd like to say that will help people in developing their well-being? The one thing that you'd like to tell us?
To have the belief that there is hope for great change in your life. Because the more you become aware of how it is that you think, the more you begin to have control over it, no matter what the circumstance.
So say that again. Say that again for me.
Boy, I did that off the cuff. Okay, so
what thing you'd like to say to help people develop their well-being? I just want you to be aware of how you think.
Great, that's right. So each morning before you wake up, before you get out of bed, just simply close your eyes in a waking state and imagine your day going better. So that anything that it is that you do, you know that you'll be able to take care of it. Because everyone has challenges, everyone has problems, and it's how we deal with it that makes the difference in life. So that, let's say for instance, before you get out of bed, you think about that annoying person at work or the boss who scares you. And they're this great big picture inside your mind, you shrink them down into this big. How can someone that big scare you? Not so much. So it's these little tricks that you can do inside your mind that will make you feel better throughout the day.
That person who annoys you because you allow them to annoy you. That's how I see it. It's your response to them. So you are the one who decided that they were annoying and you allow that feeling to come up in you. So that is a difference in how you think and your perception. The person may not actually be annoying. You may be the annoying person.
Well, that too. But we don't like to believe that, right? But the truth is that, okay, so some people say, well, I can't help myself, right? I can't help the way I feel around this person. But now that you may even realize that, look, I can guarantee it, it's a great big picture of this person. And once you shrink them down, they lose their power.
Yes, interesting. So, parting words, where can people find you again?
PhobiaReliefDay.org or at buildingyourbest.com to sign up for one of our seminars. And like I said, I'd love to have your listeners, your viewers hear all about Phobia Relief Day. They can sign up virtually, which means they don't have to be in New York City at the gallery where it's taking place. So they can sign up virtually and still get access to the audiobook.
Wonderful. So Kalliope Barlis, buildingyourbest.com, phobiareliefday.org, phobiareliefday.org. We'll make sure we have it in our show link so people can, if they're in the New York area, go. But if not, they can attend an online event. Thank you so much for being on the Wellness Revolution.
Okay, and I can't thank you enough. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and I have to say you're doing wonderful work. You're a powerful woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more on how to bring wellness into your life, visit drveronica.com. See you all next week. Take care.